The frozen wasteland. The ship shuddered as it descended, its hull scorched from the violent entry through Altheria's brutal atmosphere. A world far beyond the reach of the Federation's jurisdiction. Altheria was a planet of harsh beauty and frozen desolation. As the USS Valkyrie crept lower, its engines howling against the biting cold, the expanse of white below seemed endless. The frozen tundra stretched out in every direction, broken only by jagged, towering ice cliffs that sliced through the mist like the teeth of an ancient predator. Inside the cockpit, Commander Reyna Hall remained eerily calm, her gloved fingers lightly gripping the controls. The ship's AI, Athena, pulsed softly in her earpiece, offering its usual stream of data. Athena's voice, though mechanical, had a soothing quality to it, offering a sense of control in the midst of chaos. Commander, atmospheric pressure is stabilizing. We have approximately 2 minutes before we make contact with the surface. Be advised, the magnetic fields are interfering with the navigation systems. Athena's voice echoed in Reyna's ear. Reyna barely acknowledged the warning. She had learned to trust her instincts more than technology after years of navigating hostile situations. This was the moment that would decide whether she and her crew would be exiled to the frozen wastes of this godforsaken planet or survive long enough to find their way back home. The Federation had abandoned them, cast aside like unwanted tools, but Reyna knew that humanity's spirit could not be so easily extinguished. No, she wasn't going to just survive on this cold rock. She would fight, and she would adapt. Steady, Athena. Prepare for landing, Reyna muttered under her breath. She could feel the shift in the ship's weight as it passed through Altheria's upper atmosphere, where it had to battle both the elements and the magnetic forces. Outside, the howling wind increased in intensity. Flurries of snow spiraled into the air like ghosts, thickening the atmosphere as the massive ship fought to stay in control. Through the viewports, Reyna saw nothing but white, a landscape that seemed devoid of life and hope. Yet she knew better. She knew there was something out there. There had to be. As the Valkyrie broke through the final layers of the storm and touched down with a powerful jolt, the ship's turbines whined and groaned. Reyna could feel every inch of the ship protesting, but it held firm. The snow outside began to swirl in chaotic patterns, and the temperature plummeted with an unforgiving bite. The landing gears sank into the thick snow as the Valkyrie settled onto the frozen ground with a hiss of steam. Reyna didn't hesitate for a moment. She unstrapped herself from the seat and swung her legs over the side, pulling herself into the cold cabin. The temperature outside was already dangerously low, but Reyna was used to this. She had faced worse. Her boots crunched into the fresh snow as she stepped down from the ship, her breath visible in the air. The cold cut through her thick suit like a blade, but it was nothing she couldn't handle. As her crew filed out behind her, they looked to her for guidance, their faces hidden behind helmets, their expressions unreadable. Reyna turned and addressed them with her usual calm authority. "All right, listen up," she began, her voice cutting through the howling wind. "We're stranded here, but we're not dead. There's a reason they exiled us to this godforsaken planet, and I'll be damned if we don't make something of it. We're going to build what we need, explore this land, and find a way to survive. Together." Her words were met with a chorus of nods from her crew, the small but dedicated team of soldiers and engineers she had trusted with her life. They had all been cast out, abandoned by the Federation, but they were far from broken. They had fought their way through countless dangers, and now they would fight together on this harsh, frozen world. Reyna led the way, her boots sinking slightly into the snow as they trudged forward. The wind screamed, biting at their faces, but she kept her pace steady, pushing forward into the vast nothingness. Her eyes scanned the horizon as she moved, searching for any sign of life, any indication that they weren't the only living things on this forsaken planet. As they moved deeper into the wasteland, the horizon began to shift. Something unusual caught Reyna's eye, an anomaly on the edge of the distant cliffs. It looked like a structure, though no one could have expected a building to survive in such a harsh environment. Could it be abandoned, or was something else out here, hidden just beyond her reach? Athena, what's the status on life signs in the area? Reyna asked, keeping her tone level despite the growing unease she felt. There was a brief pause before the AI responded. Scans indicate no human life forms within the vicinity. However, there are several heat signatures roughly 100 meters to the east. The signatures are inconsistent, possibly due to environmental interference. I suggest proceeding with caution. Reyna felt her pulse quicken, though her outward demeanor remained calm. Something, or someone, was out there. She didn't know what it was, but she knew she would find out. The Federation had left them to die, but they had a different fate in mind. If there was something or someone out here, they could either become allies or enemies. But whatever it was, Reyna would be ready. Move out, she ordered, her voice cutting through the storm. The team fell into formation behind her, weapons raised as they advanced toward the mysterious heat signatures. The cold winds howled louder as they neared the source of the anomaly. The snow crunched beneath their boots, the ground frozen solid and unyielding. Reyna could feel the weight of each step, the oppressive cold tugging at her limbs, but she pushed forward. Every second they spent in this wilderness made them that much closer to something new, something that could change their fate forever. Finally, as they rounded a jagged ridge of ice, the source of the heat signatures became clear. A massive creature emerged from the shadows of the cliffs. A hulking beast, its fur shimmering with a strange, almost crystalline glow. Its body rippled with muscle and strength, its eyes a glowing predatory blue. The wind whistled through the beast's massive, sharp teeth, and it let out a low growl that made the ground vibrate beneath Reyna's feet. And then, beside it, standing tall and regal in black combat armor, was the figure of a woman. Her lavender skin glowed in the dim light, and her eyes, amber like molten gold, fixed on Reyna with a gaze that could freeze the very air around her. "Why aren't you trembling, human?" the alien woman said, her voice soft but carrying an underlying threat. "One word from me, and my pet will devour you." Reyna didn't flinch. She held her ground, meeting the alien's intense gaze with unshakable confidence. She had faced far worse than a strange alien princess with a savage beast at her side. With a calm, almost amused smile, Reyna spoke, "Because I'm not afraid of you." The alien's eyes narrowed, as though studying Reyna carefully. "I think you will be," she said, her lips curling into a dangerous smile. "You're trespassing on my world, and here we do things my way." The tension in the air crackled, the silence hanging thick between them. Reyna knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. The Federation had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity, and now the universe was about to learn just what it meant to face the might of the human spirit, the challenge of the Frozen Queen. The silence that followed Reyna's bold statement was as sharp as the wind slicing through the icy wasteland. The alien woman stood motionless, her amber eyes locked onto Reyna's with an intensity that suggested she wasn't used to being defied. The massive beast beside her, its crystalline fur bristling with cold energy, let out a low, guttural growl that vibrated through the air. Reyna remained calm, her posture unwavering, even as her crew tensed behind her. She could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on her shoulders. Their survival on this frozen planet depended on how she handled this moment. If she showed weakness, they were as good as dead. The alien woman took a slow step forward, her combat boots crunching into the ice beneath her. Despite the brutal cold, she moved with effortless grace, her black and gold armor gleaming beneath the dim light of Altheria's distant sun. Every detail of her presence, her deliberate posture, the dangerous smirk on her lips, exuded authority. "You are either very brave or very foolish," the alien said, her voice laced with amusement. "Few stand before me without fear, and even fewer live to tell the tale." Reyna kept her stance firm. "Bravery and foolishness are often the same thing," she replied. "But I prefer to call it survival." My crew and I don't intend to kneel before anyone, least of all someone who sees us as nothing more than prey." The alien raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A defiant human," she mused. "Rare, but not unheard of. I have encountered your kind before. Settlers, mercenaries, wanderers who think they can tame the stars. Most of them do not last long." Reyna tilted her head slightly. "Then I suppose we'll have to prove we're different." The alien's smirk widened. "Bold words," she said, "but words are meaningless without action." With a flick of her wrist, she gestured to the massive beast beside her, its glowing blue eyes fixed on Reyna, its muscles tensing like a coiled spring. The beast's breath came out in thick clouds, each exhale steaming in the freezing air. "You claim not to fear me," the alien continued, "but let us see if you can back your arrogance with skill. Prove your worth, human." Reyna didn't flinch. She had expected something like this. Aliens like her, leaders, warriors, often respected only one thing: strength. It was a test, one she couldn't afford to fail. She took a step forward, her pulse steady despite the weight of the moment. "What are the terms?" she asked. The alien's golden eyes gleamed with challenge. "You will face Frostfang, my war beast," she said, resting a hand on the creature's thick fur. "You will not have weapons, nor will you rely on your technology. If you can endure for 5 minutes without falling, I will consider speaking with you as an equal rather than an intruder." Behind Reyna, one of her crew members, Lieutenant Sawyer, whispered harshly, "Commander, this is madness. That thing could rip you apart in seconds." Reyna held up a hand, silencing him. "It's not about winning," she said. "It's about proving we belong here." The alien crossed her arms, clearly entertained by the situation. "Well, human, do you accept? Or would you prefer to run?" Reyna let a smirk tug at her lips. "I don't run." The alien chuckled. "Good." Without further warning, she snapped her fingers, and Frostfang lunged. The world became a blur of motion as the massive beast charged, its heavy paws thundering against the ice. Reyna had less than a second to react. She threw herself to the side, rolling just as Frostfang's claws slashed through the air where she had stood moments before. The force of its attack sent a wave of snow flying in all directions. Reyna hit the ground hard but rolled to her feet with practiced ease. Years of combat training had honed her instincts, but Frostfang was unlike anything she had faced before. It was faster, stronger, pure muscle, and raw fury wrapped in an icy shell. The beast turned on her, its glowing eyes locking onto its prey. It didn't hesitate. It lunged again, massive jaws snapping. Reyna dove forward this time, ducking beneath the beast's body as it soared over her. She hit the ice and slid, barely avoiding being crushed beneath its enormous frame. Frostfang landed with a thunderous impact, sending cracked spider webbing across the frozen ground. Reyna scrambled to her feet, her breath coming in sharp bursts. The cold gnawed at her exposed skin, but she ignored it. Focus was all that mattered now. The alien woman, watching with folded arms, called out, "Not bad, human. But how long can you last?" Frostfang growled, its breath fogging the air as it prepared for another strike. Reyna knew she couldn't keep dodging forever. She had to shift the momentum. She studied the beast's movements, the way its muscles coiled before it struck, the brief hesitation in its steps. There was a pattern to its attacks, a rhythm. She took a deep breath. The moment Frostfang lunged again, she moved, but this time, instead of running, she stepped forward. Using her momentum, she ducked beneath the beast's swipe and grabbed onto the thick fur lining its neck. Before Frostfang could react, she threw her weight sideways, twisting her body with all her strength. The sudden shift in weight caused the massive creature to stumble. It let out a surprised snarl as Reyna used its own power against it, forcing it to the side. The impact sent a shockwave through the ice. Reyna landed hard, but she didn't let go. She clung to the beast's fur as it bucked, trying to shake her off. Her muscles screamed in protest. her grip slipping as Frostfang roared and twisted beneath her. The alien woman watched with keen interest. Her smirk had faded slightly, replaced by something else: curiosity. For nearly 5 minutes, Reyna held on, enduring Frostfang's furious attempts to dislodge her. She could feel her strength fading, her body reaching its limit. The cold was draining her, her breaths turning ragged. Then, just as her grip finally failed, the alien snapped her fingers again. Frostfang froze instantly, its massive body going still. The tension in the air lingered as the beast let out a low growl before retreating a few steps. Reyna collapsed onto the ice, gasping for breath. Every muscle in her body ached. She lay there for a moment, staring up at the sky, feeling the sheer weight of exhaustion pressing down on her. Then, a hand extended into her vision. The alien woman stood above her, offering her hand. Reyna hesitated, then took it. As she was pulled to her feet, the alien studied her with new eyes. "You are not like the others," she said. "You fight with intelligence, not just brute force." Reyna gave a tired smirk. "Told you I wasn't afraid." The alien tilted her head. "Perhaps not. My name is Vela, warlord of the Dominion. And you, human, may have just earned my respect." Reyna met her gaze, standing tall despite the pain in her limbs. "Then maybe we can start talking." Vela smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't mocking. It was the beginning of something else, something far more dangerous and far more interesting. The storm howled around them, but in that moment, Reyna knew this was only the start. An unlikely alliance. The wind howled across the frozen landscape of Altheria, sending flurries of snow swirling around Reyna and Vela. Despite the cold, Reyna couldn't help but feel a warmth in her chest, something that had little to do with the weather. She had just survived an encounter with a beast unlike any she had ever seen, and in doing so, had earned the respect of the alien warlord standing beside her. Vela, once an adversary, now seemed more like a potential ally, though the exact nature of their relationship remained uncertain. Reyna took a deep breath, her body still trembling from the strain of the battle. She had given everything during that 5-minute test. Frostfang had been relentless, but Reyna had managed to hold on long enough to prove her strength, her willpower, and her resilience. And now, standing before her, Vela's amber eyes studied her with a look of approval. And something more. "Not many can survive Frostfang's trials," Vela said, her voice softer now, a far cry from the icy authority she had used earlier. "You are intriguing, human. I did not expect you to endure as you did. You are different from the others I've encountered." Reyna wiped a streak of sweat from her brow, ignoring the cold wind that bit at her face. "I don't go down easily," she said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion that threatened to overtake her. "We humans have a way of surviving against the odds. It's what we do." Vela let out a low, melodic laugh that seemed to echo in the cold, her golden eyes glinting with something akin to amusement. "Yes, I've heard much about your kind. Always full of surprises. But tell me, Reyna Hall, why are you here? Your Federation turned its back on you. Why not turn your back on them as well?" Reyna's eyes narrowed, the mention of the Federation still carrying a bitter taste. The betrayal they had suffered, the exile to this frozen wasteland, was something that weighed heavily on her heart. She had once believed in the ideals of the Federation: unity, progress, peace. But now, all she saw was a system that valued power over integrity, one that had cast her and her people aside when they were no longer useful. "We didn't choose to be here," Reyna said, her voice tinged with frustration. "The Federation abandoned us, sent us to die in this frozen hellhole without a second thought. But we're still alive, Vela, and that's something they didn't count on. We're not just here to survive, we're here to make a future. For humanity, for those who've been left behind." Vela listened intently, her gaze unwavering as Reyna spoke. There was no mockery in her expression now, no condescension, only a deep, thoughtful silence. The alien warlord seemed to be weighing Reyna's words, her mind processing the humanity she had just witnessed. For a moment, Reyna felt the weight of the conversation settle between them. "Perhaps," Vela said, her voice thoughtful, "that is what makes you different from the others. Your tenacity, your refusal to simply accept defeat. You are unlike the humans who came before you. Most of them were content to bow to the will of the Federation, to accept their fate. But you do not know how to surrender." Reyna stood tall, her breath coming in slow, steady inhales. The wind had begun to die down, the storm no longer whipping at her skin, but there was still an undeniable chill in the air. Yet she felt a strange warmth in Vela's words, an unexpected recognition. "Well, maybe it's time the galaxy saw what humans are really capable of," Reyna said, a spark of determination igniting in her chest. "We've been underestimated for far too long. The Federation may have turned its back on us, but we're not going to stay on our knees. Not anymore." Vela's eyes glinted with an unreadable emotion. "I like your fire, Reyna Hall. It reminds me of my own people, those who have fought to claim their place in the stars. My people, the Dominion, have conquered many worlds, but we are always seeking new ways to expand, new forces to wield. Your kind has potential, more than you realize." Reyna frowned, unsure of where this conversation was leading. "Are you suggesting an alliance with the Dominion?" The alien woman tilted her head slightly, her expression thoughtful. "An alliance, yes, but not in the way you might think. The Dominion has power, yes, but it has also made many enemies. Its expansion has left many factions disgruntled. You and your people could be useful in that regard. Together, we could carve out a future here, on Altheria and beyond. I could offer you protection, resources, and influence. In return, you would aid us in our campaign." Reyna took a moment to process Vela's words. It was tempting. The promise of power, of resources, of a future where humanity could thrive once more. But there was always a catch. Nothing came free in this galaxy. Vela was a warlord, a leader of the Dominion, a powerful force that was as much about conquest as it was about control. "And what would this alliance cost us?" Reyna asked, her voice cautious. Vela smiled, though there was something cold in the curve of her lips. "Everything comes with a price, human. But your people are survivors. I believe you will understand that. In exchange for my support, you will help us secure the planet and ensure that no one, Federation or otherwise, can challenge us. You will fight alongside us, share in the spoils of victory, and learn from the Dominion's strengths." Reyna's mind raced. She had always known that the Federation's abandonment was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. But joining forces with the Dominion, a conquering empire, was a dangerous proposition. There were risks, dangers she had yet to fully understand. But in the pit of her stomach, she could feel the spark of something else, something that told her that this might be her only chance to turn the tide. "An interesting offer," Reyna said, her voice low, but firm. "But I'm not ready to make any decisions yet." Vela's smile widened, though there was no humor in it. "Of course, take your time. But understand this. The opportunity to join us will not last forever. The galaxy is vast, and the enemies of the Dominion are many. There are those who would see us all fall, those who would rather see you burn than thrive. The choice, human, is yours." Reyna met Vela's gaze once more, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision she knew she would have to make. For the first time since they had landed on Altheria, she felt the true scope of what they were up against. It wasn't just the Federation that stood in their way. It was the galaxy itself, a galaxy that seemed determined to crush humanity beneath its boot. "Let's take this one step at a time," Reyna said finally. "We'll see where your offer takes us." Vela nodded, the expression on her face unreadable. "Very well, Commander Hall. Let us see what your people are truly capable of. I believe this partnership will be interesting." With that, The two women turned, the distant howls of the wind filling the space between them. The future of humanity was uncertain, but Reyna knew one thing. This was only the beginning.